Hello, underachievers. So, if you're trans and you're watching this, you're probably, rightly so, really tired of transphobia at the moment, the level of transphobia that's going around. I feel the exact same, and I know my usual content of, making fun of transphobes, debunking transphobia. That's good, but I think today it would be fun to just look at some trans memes that are actually funny, because I'm sure when you think of trans memes, a lot of the population will be like, ah, yes, trans memes like these. Which, it's the same tired joke that we've been dealing with since probably 2014, 2015. Today, I thought I would just show you some actually funny trans memes. And just before I do that, obviously, gotta remind you, I am on tour in America right now. Here are the dates. We got VIP options. You can have a great time and jump around with a bunch of gay people, a bunch of trans people, a bunch of people that aren't gay or trans, but also enjoy music. Tickets to that are in the description below. So, trans memes, let's go. You may have lost your virginity in high school, but I lost my gender identity. Seriously though, where is my gender? This one. I feel this one. I really feel this one. When I was a kid, growing up, watching all those Disney high school movies, I assumed that high school for me, I'd be... Bearing in mind, I was a girl growing up watching these videos, and for some reason, for whatever reason, I thought I would grow up to be like Troy Bolton. I really wanted to be Troy Bolton, and what did Troy Bolton have? He had a girlfriend, and he was popular, and he was the captain of the basketball. He was the captain of the basketball team. And then when I did get to high school, I was severely underwhelmed, because it did not go for me like it went for Troy Bolton. I relate to this one during high school, or like the equivalent of high school in the UK. I was also going through this. I was questioning a lot. For a little bit, I thought I was non-binary, and you know what? I don't know how well I thought I was non-binary. I think I was just worried that if I kind of admitted to myself that I was just a trans guy, that I was just a guy, that it would be a lot scarier. And for me it was. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, because obviously a lot of people are just non-binary. But I definitely relate to this one. I did feel very lost in high school. And then when I did figure myself out, I didn't feel lost, I just felt angry. So if you feel a little bit lost and angry in high school, don't worry. When you leave, it's so much better. I don't know why everybody tells people that high school are the best years of your life. They're absolutely not, and especially for LGBT people right now. What if you wanted to be flat, but your ribs said pain? This one, I feel this one so hard. I haven't worn a binder in years, and I'm incredibly grateful for that, and I'm very lucky that I was able to afford to get surgery. But Jesus Christ, the level of frustration when you're neurodivergent, and you're also trans, and you're also trying to be flat, it is the worst. Wearing a binder is a sensory nightmare, regardless if you're neurodivergent or not, but picture this, you're neurodivergent, sensory issues, things taste weird, they smell weird, when you touch them it's uncomfortable, when you wear clothes that don't fit the way you want them to, you're like this, your body is just like this. Now imagine that, but you're trying to just, you don't need to imagine. I know why you're watching this, but absolutely, the rib pain was immense, and I, like so many other people, did not bind safely. I would bind all the time, I would sometimes sleep in my binder. I know I should be telling you, hey, don't do that. Bind safely. If it hurts, take it off. Wear extra sports bras. Try and flatten yourself with layers. All that kind of stuff. Absolutely, you should do that. I'm also aware that I did not do that. But I will say, from the other side, I definitely did some damage to myself. When I had top surgery and, I was all healed up, I tried exercising because, you should never exercise in a binder. So I was like, I just won't exercise when I was binding. I tried exercising and I realized that I wasn't fully breathing in and out in the way that I should be. My body was not taking in enough oxygen, and that's because I was wearing a binder for so many years that my body had just learned to breathe really shallow. So it's not fun. It's not a good experience. If you're able to be comfortable without binding 24/7, please try and find ways to do that. So this is the kind of meme that I did not have growing up. At least I didn't see these. But there's a rise in gender envy, or people understanding what gender envy is. It's a thing. I get it. It's just, it wasn't a term that I had when I was 15. And this meme, this is absolutely it. This is gender envy. Yeah, I just really love this male character. I want his gender. For me, at least growing up, it wasn't that I wanted his gender, although absolutely it was. I wanted to be Troy Bolton, and I wanted to be a man. I think it was mostly confusing for me growing up, because I knew I wanted to be a guy. I knew I wanted to grow up and have a flat chest and have a deep voice and have a girlfriend, even though I wasn't into girls, but I just wanted to be a boy, and I knew that boys were into girls. It was very confusing. But this is a big thing, because I looked up to so many men, and I just wanted to be all of them for completely different reasons. I wanted to be Peter Parker, I wanted to be Peter Pan, I wanted to be Troy Bolton, I wanted to be Parker Cannon, I wanted to be Brennan Urie for a little bit. And that frustration, that kind of envy, I feel like people that aren't trans don't understand it maybe to the extent that trans people do, because not only do I want to be you, I'm also really annoyed that physically I could never be you. Like, no amount of working out, like, you have a I don't. That really upset me. That just leads me onto this meme, which I'm just gonna have to blur out, but without the balls, it's just torture. I feel that. I feel that. I mean, my bottom dysphoria was way worse when I was younger, and I think that's because, you know, not only did I have bottom dysphoria, I had chest dysphoria, I had voice dysphoria, my body fat was not redistributed into a male pattern like it is now that I'm on testosterone. There was so much that I was dysphoric about, but it was so much more intense before I transitioned. And I know it seems maybe pathetic to people that don't understand it. I would just cry about the fact that I didn't have a and I would just get so frustrated. Like, I'd have meltdowns about it. I'd just sit in bed and be like, ah! So I get you, Shadow. Is that Shadow? It's not Knuckles. Happy Transgender Day of Visibility to all of you lovely people who are much more braver than I am. Other trans people today, me today in the closet. This is a thing that I have been thinking about recently. When I came out, I was called brave by people that I went to school with and people that were like family friends of my parents. Just about anybody that didn't really know any trans people, they just said that I was brave because I came out. And I do understand that, because in the world that we're living in right now, it's not easy to be trans. But I don't think that if you're in the closet right now, that means you're not brave. And I don't think that means you're less brave than trans people that are out. In comparison to a lot of trans people, I had it ridiculously easy. Like, my parents were always supportive. Even as a kid, I told my parents I wanted a boy haircut. I wanted to go to the boy section of H&M. And they were just like, sure, just do whatever makes you feel happy. I think I just had it easier in that regard. So I don't think if you're in the closet right now that you're less brave. I just don't want that to be a thing that people think about themselves, because like, you already have low self-confidence if you're in the closet. You don't need to beat yourself up about it. Why does everyone on Twitter come from this country? I like these memes. I can't even explain why I find this funny. It reminds me of the hey, I'm lesbian. I thought you were American kind of thing. Is another dysphoria meme. Puberty. Easy. Puberty again, but this time you're paying for it hard. Maybe a lot of people relate to that. I do not relate to this at all. The first puberty for me was the worst. The second puberty, I was like, hell yeah, where are my facial hairs? I'm still, where are they? Where are they? But like, I get it in some sense, because like, at least for me, I have, you know, I've got a weird body, I don't know what's up. Testosterone in me, estrogen in me, any hormone in me, anything. And me, I get a little bit funny. We've had to up and lower my testosterone dose, and it was too high, and then it was too low, and then we couldn't find a right place. I'm good now, but I guess I can kind of relate to the meme in that way. The first puberty, I didn't have to do anything, and I didn't want it. The second puberty, I had to do so much. I guess it was difficult. When you're passing in public, but then your mom calls you a she. Yeah. I get that one. I remember as a kid, my parents would always have to correct people because people would just assume I was a boy. Because as I said, like, I got a boy haircut and I wore boy clothes. And there are very distinct memories that I have about this. I remember going to London and going into an ice cream shop, and the guy behind the bar was just like, oh, what would he want? And my parents had to be like, oh no, she's a girl. And there was this whole conversation about it where he's like, oh, but the hair. And they're like, yeah, no, I know. She's just like that. Like, the amount of conversations that were had about me and about my gender in front of me as a child, it's kind of insane. I just have so many memories of that, and I think my absolute favorite one is we went on holiday when I was maybe about 5. I think I had my 5th or 6th birthday there. I lost my first tooth there. It was a great time. And it was kind of a resort, I guess. There was like a swimming pool that was shared by a bunch of people that were also there, and I guess everybody had their own little flats. It was weird. But I made really good friends with the boy that lived next door for that holiday. And he knew my birth name, he knew the name that I was going by, but he looked at me and saw that I was wearing swimming shorts and had a boy haircut. And, you know, I was more masculine. I was like what people would consider a tomboy. He just assumed that I was a boy. Like, this entire week that we were there, he was calling me he to his mum and to me and to other people. And I remember we'd go around like squishing ants, and at the end of the holiday, my parents came to go say goodbye to his parents and be like, oh, I'm so glad that they got on so well. Like, they had a really good time together. My mum was like, yeah, she had a great time. And I just remember this kid being like, what? She? And then we just left. So did I catfish?
It's getting weirder and weirder.
Is that catfishing? I don't know. Anyway, what was the meme? Yes, when you're passing in public but then your mom calls you a she. It was funny as a kid, but as I got older, it was more distressing before I came out to my mum and that happened, because I still looked like a little boy, even though I was in high school. It was... I've had a weird life. I like this one. I don't relate to it, but I like it. Being straight as a boy? No. Being gay as a boy? No. Being straight as a girl? Yes. This is interesting. I don't relate in terms of straightness because I started out straight and then I didn't go gay as a girl. I came out as a boy, and at that point I thought I only liked guys. So I went from being a straight girl to a gay boy. which, big change, and that was why it was so frustrating that people assumed I was a lesbian, because I was like, not only am I not a girl, I also am not attracted to girls in the slightest, so you could not have been more wrong. Turns out, I do like girls, and I was just really scared of boobies, because I had them myself, and they made me so upset and traumatized. I feel like this is maybe something that the majority of trans people experience, where their sexuality is not very straightforward, excuse the pun. It's not very straightforward, and it's very difficult to know where you stand in society, and where you stand within specific communities. Growing up as a lesbian, and then coming out as a trans man, it must be a very interesting intersect of, like, the lesbian community that you're part of. Because, like, you grew up being a girl that liked girls, and that was an identity, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, no, I was wrong, and now I'm not lesbian. It's very confusing, and I understand why cis people are confused by it. I get that, but trans people, you know, we have a lot going on. Walking over to the boys line when told to do so in gym class. Staying in the girls' line until the teacher threatens you with detention. This is where I think people are more brave than me, because I am not brave in the slightest when it comes to anything in this regard. I know a bunch of friends that did this, and hell yeah, you are very strong-willed. If I did this at my school, I think I would not survive. I think I would actually die, and not because people would hate crime me, I'm sure they would, but I would just be too embarrassed. That would be so embarrassing. And you know, I wasn't out in school, so I guess it wouldn't have made sense, but I guess I did try this a few times when I was younger, but it wasn't in this context. It was like, again, growing up, I looked like a little boy, and I played rugby with the boys. Like, I played boy sports up until the age of 12, where there's a cutoff that the government tells you that you're not allowed to play with boys anymore, even though you're stronger and smarter and faster and taller than them when you're 12. But I remember hitting age 12 and being told that I couldn't play sports with the boys anymore, and I guess I kind of did something similar to this. I was just like, why? I'm stronger than them. I definitely didn't have it easy, and everybody's situation is different. I have a lot of respect for trans kids growing up in high school right now. Because when I was in high school, obviously there was like the anti-trans memes, there was the Apache helicopter jokes, and obviously there was transphobia, but I feel like the level of transphobia that we have right now, the amount of shit in the media about trans people, that would be so terrifying and scary to grow up in school while that was all going on, while also being out as trans. So like, if that's you, in this situation, I understand, that's probably very difficult. I hope you're doing good. US government, stop being trans. Trans people. You know what? I'm gonna start being trans even harder. This, I can relate to. You know, I'm not from America, but I toured there last year. I'm touring there currently, right now, this year, and the amount of anti-trans legislations that are just going through, not great. But I do relate to this one. I really do relate to this one. I've had a very interesting journey and relationship with being trans and my identity. At first, you know, I outright rejected it. I was like, I'm not trans, I'm just non-binary, I don't want to bind. And then I got a binder, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I wanted. And then, you know, I was aggressively trans because I needed to prove myself that I was the most trans ever. And then I went through a phase where the only thing that I could ever think about was being trans because my dysphoria was so insanely bad. And then after I transitioned, and I went through the medical transition, I went through a phase where I was like, I don't want to be defined by being trans, and I feel like I'm still in that phase. I don't know if it is a phase, but it's very easy to be pigeonholed, especially with a label like trans. But with the amount of stuff that's going on now, you know, like, a good few years ago, I purposely tried to make less trans videos because I didn't want that to be the only thing that people thought of me. But now there's so much shit, and there's so much pushback, I'm like, look, I'm just gonna post the most obnoxiously trans shit you've ever seen in your life. I will make a 40-minute video talking about how much transphobia sucks. And I hate that I feel the need to do that, and I hate that I'm sure a lot of other people feel the need to do that, but someone's gonna do it, so there it is. And, you know, it is fun pissing off transphobes. Obviously, not if you're in an unsafe environment. But if you're on the internet, I don't mind trolling a few transphobes. I don't mind rubbing it in their face that I used to have titties and now I don't. This one is a timeline of a transgender. So, you're born, and then, you know, puberty hits. Oh man. Oh geez. Oh man. Oh man, oh geez, oh geez. Oh geez, oh man, oh geez, oh man, oh no, oh geez. Yeah, I get that. I mean, the timeline doesn't end there. I'm on the other side of that. We go back and forth, but yeah, realizing you're trans is one thing, accepting you're trans is another thing, and then actually doing anything about it is another thing. I just don't think a lot of people realize just how much is going on when somebody realizes they're trans. It's absolutely terrifying. And maybe there are people that do not have that experience. I am yet to find them. I love a bit of trans woman and trans man solidarity, because I feel like a lot of the time there's so much pointless arguing for absolutely no reason, and there's always competitions about who has it worse. I definitely played into that, probably not that long ago, but do you know what we like? We like a bit of salad, we like a bit of salad.
Right in front of my salad?
Trans woman and trans man solidarity. Height dysphoria. Absolutely. This was a big one for me. And, you know, big one. Oh, it's a very small one. I'm a little guy. I'm 5'5", and I grew a few centimeters on testosterone, luckily. I was 5'4.5", and now I'm very comfortably 5'5". Don't ever measure me. Ever. It's a kind of similar experience to the frustration that you get with binding, where it's like, I cannot will myself into growing taller. I cannot do that. So I went through phases of putting like height insoles in my shoes, gave me a few inches. I actually wore them the first time I met Corey, and then the second time I met Corey, he was like, you seem shorter, and I'm like, yep. I stuffed my shoes to make myself taller. And don't get me wrong, like, the shoe insoles, very useful for going to concerts, because you can actually see over people, and there's not this wall of blocked sound surrounding you. And, you know, currently, I wear platform shoes all the time. They look sick as hell, and they also make me taller. I wouldn't say that my height dysphoria is really that bad anymore. It's more just an inconvenience, and it annoys me sometimes. Like, I'll be at a party, and speaking to a bunch of guys, and I feel like we're on the same level of, like, humor. Like, we're like, you know, we're both equally as funny as each other. We're both equally as cool as each other, but because I'm down here and they're up there, I feel so inferior. I'm like, hey, listen to my joke, please, but don't look down at me. I'm sure that must be very difficult as a trans woman as well, because, like, you can't control your height. Like, you just can't. If you're really tall and you stick out, you just can't do anything about that. That sucks. Coming out as transgender face-to-face? Coming out as trans through a meme? Hell yeah. This terrifies me a little bit. I've had a few people ask me, like, oh, what joke can I make to come out as trans to my family? And I'm like, look, I don't know you, stranger. I don't know what your parents are gonna do. I don't know how they're gonna react. I don't know if they're gonna find it funny to learn this very big part of your life, this very big thing that's gonna change their entire world through a meme. That scares me. And I'm not saying that it's insensitive. I mean, obviously, if you come out through a meme and your parents are like, haha, that's funny, you have a great relationship with your parents. Hell yeah. It scares me the fact that, like, some people may do that and it may backfire, and, you know, as hard as it is for a trans person, and absolutely your transition is about you, it's not about your parents, it's not about how other people feel. But, you know, your parents grow up with you, they see you as one thing, and it could absolutely change their entire world. So maybe coming out with a meme. Oh, that scares the hell out of me. I just sent my mum a Wikipedia link to non-binary and sent it to her on Facebook Messenger while I was in school, sat in the bathroom. So, I'm not one to talk. I've never really come out as trans to anyone in person. That's a lie. Oh my god. Actually, my roommate from school, I went to a boarding school and I had a Russian roommate, and I love her. She's called Sasha. She's the best. Literally a few weeks before we finished school, I came into her room and she had obviously, I don't know what she'd been doing. She would definitely have seen my social media. And, you know, I was Noah online. I wasn't birth name online. But I came into her room and she was like, so can I ask you a question? And I'm like, oh god, yes. You like boys, right? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, no doubt. I'm not a lesbian. I feel like I have to make this very clear. I'm not a lesbian. And she was like, okay, I get that. But if you were gonna have a boyfriend, would you be their boyfriend or would you be their girlfriend? And I was like, oh my god, that was intense. And I'm very glad she did that, because it made coming out to her face-to-face way easier. Because I feel like if I was gonna come out to her face-to-face, I'd have to make such a big deal out of it. I'd be like, look, I'm not who you think I am. So I came out to her face-to-face. But yeah, coming out in a meme, that's scary. That's very scary to me. So those are the trans memes. If you want me to make another video like this, I'm so down. I enjoyed it. This is, you know, more enjoyable than being called slurs. But yeah, if you want to see me at a show, you want to meet me, we've got VIP tickets. I'm in these places. Just have a look. Just maybe consider it. It would just be a fun time. But yeah, have a good day. See you later, losers. Goodbye.